Right. Well, welcome everyone to our inspiring IPC&M author series, which you can find on our blog and which also complements our book review club, which remains a great success. Now, if you are a practitioner wanting, dreaming, and most probably struggling to add a book to your business strategy, you are in the perfect place because these very generous guest authors we have here with us will be sharing not only their writing and publishing story, but how also having a book upscaled their business to stimulate us. So today I am absolutely delighted to welcome top executive coach, keynote speaker, and of course, not only author, but best-selling author, Navid Nazemian. Welcome, Navid.
Thank you very much, Julie. I am very excited to have this conversation with you today.
Well, we're very grateful that you're willing to come here and that you're a very busy and a very successful top executive coach. And so we're grateful for you for sharing your experience here. So maybe we just start at the beginning. I mean, why did you want to write a book?
Well, Julie, I guess there is a book in every one of us. The question is, do we go after digging it out and giving birth to it? That's really what I fundamentally believe. Everyone, every single one of the 8 billion people on this planet has at least one book in them. So that's my.
Okay.
And so, yes, I had always the idea of writing a book. Little did I know, Julie, what it actually takes to produce this wonderful thing called a book. And this is a true story that you may or may not be aware of. If you were to look at any profession, right, you can go really wide with your imagination. Let's say nuclear scientist or a jet fighter pilot. The failure rate of being a published author is much higher than those very exotic type jobs. Because apparently, and this is from my book writing professor, Eric Costa, the success rate is only about 3%. So from 100 people who aim to have a book published, compared to those that actually manage to publish a book, there's a 97% failure rate. And so it's a true statistic, a staggering one. And despite that, there are plenty of books being published as we speak, and hopefully plenty more going into the future. So yes, I did want to write a book. I just didn't have any imagination of how hard and challenging it can be to produce a book.
So what did you do? What was the secret then to make it, to actually join the 3% club?
Yeah, so a few things I got wrong, and I hope that your listeners, viewers, and audience doesn't repeat those. So the first thing I did was I was asked by two individuals, independent of each other, if I would be happy to contribute a chapter to their book. And I guess this is one way of writing a book. So you ask 10 or 12 people that you know that have something interesting to share, and you just collect it and add your own chapter and forward and kind of closing out note and create a book. So I did that, and I really found that to be easy because all I had to do is I knew the topic already.
Yeah.
I knew roughly how much I needed to write up to create that. And I just assumed writing my own book is 10 to 12 times the effort. And as I'm sure you will appreciate, it was a lot harder than that. Because you need to have some sort of a red thread to
Yeah.
to bear in mind. You need to have some idea about the skeleton framework of a book that you are writing against. You need to, at some point, stop doing the research. I wanted to write a book that is heavy both on the research, but also on the practical aspects of what actually works in organizations. And also, I guess what really got in the way was just my life, right? I was a busy executive leader in the HR function. At the time I started to write this wonderful book, I just moved to London, and yeah, I was tasked with a global challenging role. Our son was barely 2 years old at the time, and I was coaching on the side. And traveling the world and trying to write the book, and just, life just gets in the way. So there are all these obstacles that are getting to you. I mean, writer's blockade. You can really, think of any obstacle. I probably faced that
Went through it.
obstacle.
But
At
still,
some
you
point, yeah.
persevered, right? What was your secret to get you? 'Cause I mean, I can totally relate to all that you've just said. And I thought those were very interesting statistics that it's so much easier to become a pilot, a jet pilot or whatever, than it is to finish a book. What helped you through all of this? So indeed, I mean, you're
Yes.
a perfect example of life getting in the way. And I guess it's also about priorities, but then some of the priorities, I mean, you couldn't ignore the fact of the age of your child or the fact that you had this new top function in London that you needed to, get into. How did you then manage to do it? Did you have certain hours every day? Had you given yourself a deadline?
Yes, I tried that for about 6 years, and I had to admit to myself that that approach is really not working for me. Not
Right.
suggesting that it doesn't work for anyone that doesn't try it, but it didn't work for me. So I had carved out some time in my diary to be productive and write a book. That didn't really work well for me. So just to give you an idea, and this is not really known to too many people. I produced roughly 60 pages after 6 years of trying to write this book. So, if you look at my productivity level, it's roughly a tweet a day. That's how low my productivity was. And after about 6 years, I thought to myself, you know what? I just don't have enough life left in me to produce this book because, if you assume a regular book has got what, 250 pages, that's another 19 years to write. And so I thought to myself, you know what? There's only two ways to go about this now. Either I publish what I have so far, and publish it as a white paper and just be done with it and just find my
Mm.
peace with this process. I may not be the author that I thought I could be, or I need to fundamentally, change my game and gear up to really be more serious, more dedicated, and more productive in the end. So I spoke to a few people, and one of the people I spoke with talked to me about this gentleman called Eric Costa, who is a professor at Georgetown University, who is having this online book writing club for very little money at the time. I just listened to her raving about how much she liked him, how much she believed that this community-based writing had helped her to be more productive, how having a skeleton framework and a rough a skeleton idea to write up against is much more fruitful than just trying to do research and
Yeah. Yeah.
find those nuggets of wisdom. And so I signed up, and within about 6 months after that, not only did I produce another 180 pages, but combined with what I had done prior to that, it really became a
Wow, a
very,
book.
very
Yeah.
compelling
Yeah.
manuscript, shall we say.
Right. So, I mean, your advice here is, in particular, if it's your first one, if you're struggling, get help, right? I mean,
Yes,
we go and see the dentist to remove our teeth instead of trying to pull them out ourselves, may as well go and get the help that we need. People are specialized in that. And I guess
yes,
it's the accountability as well, right? It's having
it
someone
is.
there.
It
So
is.
that was what you did. And well, maybe first of all, why was it you wanted to write a book? I mean, I know you said, everybody has a book in them, but this is a business book, right?
Yes, it is a leadership book. It's a thought leadership book. To be perfectly honest, I had no idea where this book is going to go, right? I
Right.
mean, I don't think, unless you're Michelle Obama or
Yeah.
I don't know, Gordon Ramsay,
Harry.
you have a good estimate of how many millions of copies you're
Yeah.
going to sell. If you're someone like me, you have really no idea. And so I had a decent number in my mind as to how many family members I have, how many good friends, how many colleagues
Exactly.
that would be kind enough to buy a book. But it was many, many thousands of copies more. And so that actually resulted in me having to make a hard decision. So my idea of writing the book was not to grow my business or doing anything with it. Actually, I was a full-time exec and I had just this side passion of coaching executives through their transitions. And so when the book launched and I suddenly had all these interests coming my way, I mean, I had people that I didn't know, was not connected to,
Mm.
reached out to me over LinkedIn and other media to say, can you come and speak at our leadership event? Can you be a guest on my podcast? Can you write an article for us? Can you
Wow.
do this? Can you do an interview? Can you do that?
You were a specialist
Like,
suddenly,
oh
right?
my goodness, I
Yeah,
just have enough time in my day to be
yeah.
able to do all of this. So I had to really admit to myself, either I continue what I had been very successfully doing, just, carry on as an exec and do all this exciting stuff on the side,
I'll
or
switch.
take my side passion and side, hustle and make it my main gig. And that's what I did. And I
You
believe
did.
today I would not be able to do that if the book was not
Wow.
such a sensational success, unexpectedly so.
So that's a great example of what can happen when you do actually get this book out. Now, okay, so you got the help for all the writing and all of that. What about the actual publishing? Was that also taken care of, or did you look at
So
self-publishing or look
yes.
for a
So
publisher?
I explored the three routes, right? I mean, the easiest one is you just create a PDF and put it on Amazon and hope for the best. That's kind of completely self-published at your own desk. The middle route is hybrid publishing. So where you seek the professional services, cover design, professional editing, all that stuff, but you maintain the copyrights to your book. And then the traditional routes, which is, talking to publishers, traditional publishers. And I actually managed to find two publishers that were, happy to do this with me. I won't mention the names, but one of them is a publisher based in the UK that really is producing a lot of books in the space of coaching. And the
Right.
other one is a German publisher that is one of the largest in Europe that is more in the scientific kind of, space. And so, when I looked at the proposals that they sent to me, essentially what they sent me was a very expensively worded document written by lawyers that said,
Mm.
I think one of them was 25 pages that actually said, you essentially sign away your, any and all rights to your book. And in return, you get a check from us of, I think it was 10K at the time. And so I thought to myself, it's unlikely I'm going to sell more than, worth 10K of books. But actually, I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
Give it away. Yeah.
They have all the rights on even the cover design, even the
Yeah.
pricing, and this and that. And I thought, you know what? It took me 7 years to write this
Yeah,
book.
it's your
I
baby,
might as
right?
well, I might as well, take a gamble and just do it on my own with a hybrid publisher. And that's what I did. And of course, they say
Thank
in
goodness.
hindsight,
Right.
everyone is more wise than prior to the event. And so it was a very wise
Very good decision.
decision because it's a book that's been going super strong for 2 years in a row. And of course, it has more than, paid what a traditional publisher
Was
had
prepared to
paid.
pay. And at least you kept the rights, right? And you could choose. I mean, I guess it must be pretty demoralizing if you've written all of that and then, for example, the cover is really not your style. You must feel a bit, violated in a way, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
So I
Okay.
went down the middle route, the hybrid publishing.
Okay. And so, I mean, of course, your return on investment, because I mean, what holds us back? I mean, lots of things, like you said, life, but then also you have the self-confidence. I know there's so many books out there, who's waiting for mine. There's the costs for some people. I mean, okay, you had your executive career in parallel. Not all coaches wanting to write a book. Some of them want to do it for the credibility, right? To actually launch in a way their business. They might not have the means to that. So that's also, I think, something which does hold a lot of people back. If I were to ask you for three tips for coaches who feel they have this book that they want to do or know they should do it to give themselves credibility and visibility, maybe, what would you say?
Yeah, so first off, I just want to encourage everyone that I wish I was that strategic, Julie. 10 years prior to being my book launch, I would have thought to myself, okay, I'm going to take 7 years. I'm going to write this incredible manuscript. It's going to launch. It's going to become a #1 new release on Amazon on the first day of its launch. And then it's going to become a bestseller in the US, in Germany, in the UK, and it's going to become an international bestseller. And 6 months after that, just before I turn 50, I'm going to jump ship from the big corporate. I'm going to establish my coaching business. And in the first year of setting up my coaching business, I'm going to have a 7-digit profit coming my way. Now, if I, I would be lying if I even had in my wildest imagination anything close to that. So my first, advice is believe in
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
believe in your idea, believe in whatever you have in you. You just obviously need to make sure that it gets in the right hands at the right time.
Right.
Now,
Right.
one of the things I did, and I was very, very skeptical of this, was what Eric suggested to me. He said, I think your book has got what it takes to do a pre-launch campaign successfully. And I said, what does that even mean? He said, these GoFundMe type websites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you go and say, hey, I'm creating a, wonderful product, chuck in some money and you will be the first to get your hands on this thing. I think you can do that with your book. And I said, Eric, this is like, sorry, but this is like crazy, right? I mean, I am going to launch this website, like on an existing website, a pledge to pre-purchase a copy of my book. I don't even have a book, right? And he said, no, 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 yeah, that's exactly what I'm suggesting to you. And you need to commit for 30 days, every day, doing one post about people to be coming to the website and making a purchase. And I thought, you know what? I actually have the money to pay for the hybrid publishing. Why would I really go? Because the downside of being potentially embarrassed hugely was much bigger than the potential upside of, okay, I collected the whatever the 10K I needed to pay my hybrid publisher. So I thought really hard. I was really resistant. I wasn't sure it's the right thing, but I thought, you know what? He knows something that I clearly don't know because he has helped, what, 1,000 people to publish a book. So if he says
Right.
so, I'm going to
Yeah.
just trust that he knows something that I can't just justify
Wow.
in my mind. I did that, Julie. And my campaign was the um, most successful campaign they had ever ran. It was oversubscribed 533% of the amount that I needed to raise to pay down for the hybrid publisher. So I knew before the book actually launched that there is going to be a huge
Demand.
market for my
Yeah.
book. And not only did I know that, but coming back to what you said, what advice would you have for a first-time author or a new author, is that pre-launch campaign helped my book to become a #1 new release on the day it launched, because there were hundreds of people going into the search bar on Amazon and either typing my name or typing the name of my book. And you know how this works, right? Once the algorithm picks up your book and makes cross connections to other books, the other very popular book in the same category of books is The First 90 Days. It sold 1.2 million copies over its shelf life. 20 years ago, it was published, still going strong. So once the algorithm says, oh, Julie, people you have purchased in the first 90 days prior to, to this,
You might be interested
you
in.
might be interested in this book also. And so that whole thing really, worked
It
its.
takes a life of its own, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the second or third tip
A
I can.
pre-launch. Okay.
The fourth one I can give, and again, this goes back to Eric. I had no idea how to go about this. He said, make sure before your book is ready to launch. So, on Amazon, when you go, you sometimes see books that are due to be launched on the
Yeah.
1st of,
Coming soon.
January next year.
Yeah.
You have credible testimonials ready to go with your
Oh, yeah.
launch. Now, again, it wouldn't occur to me to send a 90% ready manuscript to anyone to say, hey, would you mind reading? And if you like it, give me your testimonial. And I did that. And literally every single one of those thought leaders, people that I couldn't even afford to buy, even if I wanted to, came back and said, this is a great book, this is a great read, this is a must read, this is a compendium book on this topic. And of course, I asked for their kind permission and they said, sure. And so I had all these kind of, heavy hitter testimonials lined up before the book
And
actually
see,
launched.
these are fantastic tips, but what a story. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it really is proof of what can happen if you trust yourself, you keep at it. I mean, I think it's also your story is a story of resilience. I think there have been quite a few moments where you could have stopped that, and as you say, your life would look very differently today. So I'm hearing so many things, they're the very practical tips indeed about looking for the support, the hybrid publishing, the pre-launch, the testimonials. Those are all extremely practical and useful tips. So thank you very much for that. I also thank you for having shared so vulnerably your story as well, where you came from and all the doubts that you had. I think it's going to be extremely relatable to our audience. And I guess my last question to you then is, now that you've set the bar so high, will there be another book? Because that's hard, right? It's like your second hit single. It never happens. Would you
Look,
consider writing another
I had hair before I started writing.
one?
Look at me now. No, no, in all seriousness. I mean, the first thing I want to say, and again, I wish I was that strategically foresighted. There is a very famous guy. His name is Professor Dave Ulrich. He is the father of the modern human resource management. He's like a huge guru. A few months back, I had a launch of my book. So my book launched as a blink on the portal called Blinkist. Blinkist is essentially a super short, abstract summary version of famous books. And so, they took my 250 pages and created like a 5-page summary of it. They took the audiobook version of my book, which is 5 hours and 34 minutes long, and created a 17-minute long, audio version of the same. And then the idea is that people have memberships on Blinkist, and if they like that link, they can go and buy the actual book. So you get to test it before you buy. And so I announced the launch of my book on the platform Blinkist. And Dave Ulrich, obviously he was one of the gurus that gave a very kind testimonial to my book. He wrote something along line this sentence. He said, "How lucky you are to have found a topic that's become a book that's going to be an evergreen," right? Now, again, I had no idea what I was writing about. I knew the topic. I was very passionate about it. I knew a lot about it, but I never thought it to be an evergreen or a topic that is there to stay. I had another friend who wrote a book on digital HR transformation. And he was joking. It's one of these short books, only 100 pages, like super quick. You can read it in an hour. He sent me an email on the day he sent his manuscript to his publisher, and he said, rather jokingly, half of what I just submitted is outdated already, right? Because, he wasn't talking about large language models. There was no ChatGPT at the time. Digital transformation was essentially an ERP solution in the HR space. So I just got lucky that I found an idea that is going to be an evergreen. That's why the first 90 days is going strong, 20 years in, because what's fundamentally going to change in your structured onboarding as an employee in a new company? Not much.
We're still human, right?
Right. And so that's the first thing. The second thing I want to say, and this comes back to what ideas and suggestions do you have for other authors? So my book launched first as an ebook, then as a paperback. Then I did a premium version of the same as a hardcover edition, with Dr. Marshall Goldsmith being a very kind person who wrote a very kind foreword to my book. And I added a bonus chapter. Then I took it on myself and went to a professional sound recording studio here in Dubai. I moved countries in between all of this. And so came from London to Dubai. This is where I'm based and dialing in from today, and recorded the audiobook version of the same. Then I launched the workbook to my book, because the workbook is included in the paperback and the hardcover edition. But some people wrote to me to say, I prefer to read books digitally. I want to get my hands on the workbook, please. So now the workbook is selling for $10, independent of the book. Most people are happy just with that, because what they're really interested is they want to put it into practice. I just launched the Certified Transition Coach training program, which is based on the core findings of my book. I'm about to sign a contract with a huge company to create an immersive e-learning journey based on the core findings of my book next year. This is my idea about my book. Rather than writing a new book, I seem to have hit kind of the gold mine rather than going after the iron mine. I might as well dig gold and just stick to that for the next 10+ years to come.
Wow. Well, I mean, congratulations. I wish that sort of insight or break of wisdom that you have on all of us. And Navid, I thank you very much for sharing all of that with us. Good luck with all the rest. And I guess, thank you on behalf of mankind, in a way, sounds a little bit too much, but maybe, that you have created something which is obviously a very crucial tool to so many people. All the
Thank you
best.
so much. Thank you,
Thank you
Jude,
very much,
for the
Navid.
opportunity. All the
Take
best.
care.
Take
All the
care.
best, you too. Bye.